2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, GL Chapter 38, Section 18, and the Governor's February 12, 2022 revised order extending remote participation by all members in any meeting of a public body. This meeting, the Great Barrington Select Board, will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and or parties with a right and a requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the town's website. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. Pursuant to MGL 7C 30A Section 20F, after notifying the chair of the public body, any person may make a video or audio recording of an open meeting session of a meeting of a public body or may transmit the meeting through any medium. At the beginning of the meeting, the chair shall inform other attendees of any such recordings. This meeting is being recorded by the Berkshire Edge, the Berkshire Eagle, the Town of Great Barrington, and other members of the public. Any member of the public wishing to speak at the meeting must receive permission of the chair. The listing of agenda items are those reasonably anticipated by the chair which may be discussed at the meeting. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed. Other items not listed may be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by law. Start with a roll call vote. Garfield Reed.
Aye.
Eric Gabriel.
Aye.
Ed Abrams.
Here.
Lee Davis.
Here.
And Steve Bannon is present. Next is approval of minutes. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the minutes of May 23rd, 2022 and June 13th, 2022.
I have changes to one of them. Do you want to do them one at a time or?
A lot of changes or mostly housekeeping?
A lot.
Okay, so let's do one at a time. Lee, can you just withdraw that and do?
Sure, I withdraw. I make a motion to approve the May 23rd, 2022 minutes.
Second, and I have some proposed changes.
Sure.
Which, if approved, I will. There's two of them. If they're approved, I'll email them to Mark so we can include them. They're both direct quotes. 7A, where we're discussing short-term rentals. The second paragraph, I would like to add C. Rembold stated, quote, I left that meeting, which is the select board meeting of 3/7/22, with a charge to work with the chair and the vice chair to develop a draft based on what the board members had laid down in their comments. Then I would continue with what's in there. Then the second change is longer. The triple I, the first, after the first sentence, I would replace the second sentence with S. Bannon replied, the select board, as Chris has pointed out, had asked Lee and I, Chris and Mark, mainly Lee and I, to come back with the draft to the full select board. Ultimately, Lee could not participate. The Ethics Commission said if the grandfather clause wasn't in there, she would be allowed to. E. Abrams said, so the grandfather clause that 4 of you had agreed to have in there was removed, and S. Bannon said it was only 2 of us. Mark and Chris were just giving advice, and then I would continue as it's written.
I have no problem with that. Anyone have any questions or concerns?
Ed, did you take that from the video, or I'm just wondering why you're highlighting those sections?
Those are verbatim from the video.
Was there an issue with it?
It's clearer about what went on.
So were there no changes? You just made it clear.
What do you mean? These are changes.
But what was wrong in it that are you adding?
Yeah, I'm adding those quotes. I took out one sentence. Which one? We'll replace the second sentence. Sorry. As Banner replied, it was the recommendation of the Ethics Committee. L. Davis could participate only if the grandfather clause was removed. And since it had not been presented to the select board, he chose to take it out. That's the sentence I took out. Of the Ethics Committee.
I'd like to actually review these changes before we approve them, please.
That's fine. We can, Ed has no problem with that. So we will withdraw the motion and withdraw the second. Ed, if you just email it to Mark so we can, like you said, that would be great. Okay, next one.
I make a motion to approve the minutes of June 13th, 2022.
Second.
Any changes, corrections, additions, deletions? Roll call vote. Garfield,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
and I. It's unanimous. Select board's announcement or statement. Garfield?
Yes, actually, I do have something. I'm trying to organize, with the help of Betsy Andrus, a Great Barrington Day. And it's just a way to try to incentivize the people of town, folks of Great Barrington, Housatonic, to come into town. We know some of us don't like coming into town. And it will coincide the same day as the auto show, which is August 4th. All the people that seem to be involved, or let me put it this way, are fine with it. It was the town manager, the fire chief is okay with it, the police chief, and the Great Barrington firefighters. We have sent out a flyer to all the merchants in town, hoping to get their participation. I know if you're out there, folks, you'd be happy to do something like this. But it could be fun for the folks in town. Again, what it would be is you come into town, if you're a resident, you show you're a resident of Great Barrington, Housatonic, and the merchants, whatever they choose to make their offer of them comfortable is what they could do. They can offer maybe a giveaway, possibly a 10% discount on said money spent. Maybe there's a prize or something. Maybe there's a half off or something. But whatever makes them comfortable, we would do and run into length of the business day. My hope is I've done a little bit of rough math as far as the cost that would go. It'd be probably about $400 to $500 to advertise it, depending on how many merchants are participating. If no merchants participate, then we're not going to have a day. But that's what we're depending on. And again, I've already sent out a flyer to the merchants in town, and I will probably follow up with them on Friday to see what's going on. But I'm hoping that I can get the backing of the board as well in the budget and next budget, which is July 1st.
Mark, we have money in the celebrations account starting in the new fiscal year.
In the new fiscal year, we could certainly free up $400 to $500.
Board members? Any comments?
I mean, I think it's always great to support the businesses. So well done to Garfield and Betsy for this initiative. I'd love to see the flyer if you have it or have already distributed. That would be great to see. And I'd love to, if this does go ahead, I'd love to have some data to see how many locals have actually taken advantage of this initiative and see how we can move forward. So thank you.
Do we have a minimum number of merchants that we would call us, we would go ahead with this, that will remain open during the car show and participate?
That's a good question. I had not thought that far ahead to see if whatever. If I haven't had 5 people that showed an interest, then I think it's actually worth doing. It probably would obviously cost much less to advertise. As far as some of the flyers, there's going to be an ad on WSBS. We're going to put something in the shopper's guide. There'll be flyers in each store that is participating. And I think that's pretty much it. And they're to contact myself or Betsy. I'm taking full responsibility for it. So it won't really involve anyone else from the town. So it won't be really taking anyone else's time up in that respect. I hadn't thought of a minimum, but if it's 5 or 10, that would be great. That would certainly give incentive enough to go forward.
We're shooting for, or you're shooting for all the stores, restaurants, coffee shops, everything in the downtown sector. Garfield,
Yeah.
is that? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. And then the advertisement that you're talking about would be like Instagram and Facebook, and would you do a mailer or?
I hadn't thought that far ahead. I thought WSBS would run it a couple, 3 or 4 times. We'll run it in the shopper's guide at least twice. We'll have the flyers. I talked with Larson Sign, and they can do signs for $34, 24 by 18, both sides. I figured 6 or 8 would be plenty. It doesn't have to be, 900 signs. Strategically placed would be fine. A couple in Housatonic, spread the rest out in Great Barrington.
So what I would love to, with even with the busking that's going on, if we can get more businesses to stay open later, that's always a plus in my book. So, that would be a great initiative unto itself, just to encourage businesses to stay open later for the car show. So
That would be great.
So, Mark, the celebrations account is under the office of the town manager. So I think what you're probably looking for is less of a vote, but more than no objections to it, correct?
Correct. That's all I need.
So I don't see any objections, so
I want to, I guess, echo what Lee said, which is to have some reporting back to us on how successful it was and how we measured that.
That
Again,
makes perfect sense. Shouldn't be that hard to do. I would just get the store owners to make a note of how many people came in and that are local. It won't be that hard to figure out when they show their IDs who's here and who's not. You can take it from them.
thank you, Garfield. Eric,
Nothing at this time. Thank you.
Ed, Lee,
nothing.
and I have nothing. Town managers report.
Okay, thanks, Steve. I have actually two updates tonight. I realize I only have one item on the agenda. But the first one is Houstonic Waterworks, our standing topic for town manager updates. Just wanted to mention that Houstonic Waterworks did hold their information session last week, and it was last Thursday night via Zoom to update customers on the upcoming manganese removal pilot study, and there were 13 people in attendance that evening. Elevated manganese levels are being detected once again. That probably surprises no one based on the warmer temperatures we're seeing in the past couple of weeks. The good news is that HAA5 or haloacidic acids samples are noting a drop, and that's I believe the most recent testing was in May, and the next round of testing will be conducted in August. So anyone looking for more information on that, it's listed right at the top of Houstonic Waterworks website. It's right there for anyone that would like to take a look at that, and we'll also post that on our website, our Houstonic information tab in the select board page. And then my add-on for this evening is
Mark, before you do that, do we want to schedule an executive session? Just let everyone know.
And I also had a note about that meeting, when you have a minute, please.
Yeah. So, Mark, just at our next meeting, we'll schedule an executive session to further discuss Houstonic Waterworks.
yes. Do you want to hold it at the next meeting, or do you want to discuss the date and time at the next meeting?
If everyone's comfortable with it and we'll be there, we'll do it at our next meeting, which I believe is July 11th.
Works for me. We'll put it at the tail end of the agenda that night.
Sounds good. Lee, go ahead.
Mark, could we make a request to Jim Mercer to two things: to record these community meetings and to put a link that's usable on the website to make it as easy as possible for Houstonic residents to join. Those are two requests I'd like to make, and if we can get them in writing so that it's formal, that he recognizes that we are making this request and answers that.
Okay, I'm taking notes. And we created a hyperlink and shared it. Yeah, okay. So we did try to make it as easy as possible for folks to join.
But if we can, make a formal request
Sure.
on behalf of the citizens.
Sure, we can do that.
Thank you.
So my last update for this evening is just to remind everyone that July 15th, or as of July 15th, will be required to resume in-person meetings unless Governor Baker extends the deadline or some kind of permanent legislation passes between now and then. Work began in our meeting room next door to my office here, our hybrid meeting room improvements. That includes a large monitor on the wall for remote participants and a new sound system and floor outlets to accommodate laptops and tablets and so on. And I just wanted to ask everyone who is participating in any one of our various board and committee meetings to just be patient with us. This is another period of transition, and I'm sure there will be some bumps along the way, but we'll do our best to make this as smooth as possible. And I also just wanted to remind everyone to pay very close attention over the next, post July 15th, assuming that we are required to resume in-person meetings again, or we move to hybrid meetings for some boards and committees. Just wanted to remind everyone to pay very close attention to the agendas. We've all become very accustomed to being able to join remotely, and some of the meetings, due to the lack of hybrid meeting space available, will have to be in person. So just pay attention. I'd hate to have someone miss a meeting because they thought they could join from home, only to find out at the time it starts that it's being held at the fire station or the senior center or some other location. So that's all I have. Thank you.
So Mark and I have talked today about how we're going to do this as a select board. And if there's no objections, what we thought we would do, because the technology is going to be new and it'll be prior to the 15th, that our next meeting, I'll ask the select board members who are comfortable to come in person. There's 2 of us, 3 of us, so we can start to get the technology down. And then after that, we will, depending on what the new frontier is, whether we can do virtual meetings or whether we can't, we'll have to make a decision on the 11th. But assuming that we can't do all virtual, we'll start to do hybrid meetings after that. Now, realize that all that means is a quorum of the board must be in person and the chair must be there. Doesn't have to be the entire board. If you're not comfortable, that's fine. The other thing that we'll start to do is discussing with other chairs of other committees. And right now, until we get the technology worked out, we're only going to have one room to do hybrid meetings. So it would be my hope, because I believe, I understand why people want to be in person, but I also think there's a good group of people who would like to be able to join remotely. So what my hope would be is that committees that tend to draw a larger audience, or at least people have more interest, especially, and that's hard to say, but they'll all make their own decisions, would use our selectmen's meeting room and have hybrid meetings. And maybe smaller committees who aren't interested in doing it will just go to in person. But eventually, if hybrid meetings work out, the technology is good enough that we'll move hybrid meetings, not only the selectmen's meeting room, but maybe the fire station and the library, so that eventually all committees can participate in hybrid meetings. But I think it's going to be a little bit of a learning curve, as Mark says. We've done it with the school district for I'm going to say 2 years now, hybrid meetings, maybe a year. And we actually had some public in at our last meetings. So, and it works, but the technology is a little hard to get used to. So that's why I think it'll be good at our next meeting if some of us are in person, just to start to get used to the technology. Any comments, questions?
I'm up for that. I don't have any problem with it.
Sounds good. Licenses and permits. Dana Audia for one weekday entertainment license at 389 Main Street, Great Barrington, for the Berkshire Botanical Garden Gala on July 2nd from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Is there someone on the line, Mark? Do you see?
No, I was looking. I don't see anybody with that name, but if you're on under a different name, just raise your hand and open your mic.
So this is one of those conditions that if we don't approve it tonight, they won't be able to have it. And they have 2 here, and both of them are private events. Or it's a gala. Yeah. So do I have a motion?
I make a motion. Am I okay?
Go ahead.
I make a motion to approve one weekday entertainment license for Dana Audia for the Berkshire Botanical Garden Gala on July 2nd, 2022 from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m.
Second.
Discussion.
Yes, please. How many sticks in the mud, old fashioned, whatever, but these things aren't to be taken lightly. An alcohol license is not to be taken lightly. And I think if you want it, you need to be in person to to speak your piece or at least show that it's important. And that kind of bothers me some when no one shows up.
I agree. When we go back to in-person meetings and groups come from Amherst or Long Meadow, I kind of understand if they say they can't make it, but this is a pretty easy way to get onto a meeting for 5 minutes. I do understand.
Leave your house even.
Exactly. So we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
Yeah, I guess, Steve, just
Yeah.
my question would be with like the tip certification and all this stuff. I mean, no one's here to back it up, but somebody, staff, is checked into this.
Amy will
Right.
take care of it. Amy will
Okay.
take care of that.
Okay. I agree with Garfield on the sense that people should be here. I guess I'm wondering, this one came down to the wire. Did it get pushed because of our agendas being busy up to this point, or is this like a late entry? Or
We don't push licenses back.
okay,
No, those take a couple minutes usually. So
Yeah.
Am I correct, Mark? I've never seen
Yeah,
it.
I don't think we've had this for long. We've been processing licenses and applications as we receive them, unless they're missing a piece of information that's essential.
This one says on it received June 1st. So
Is it possible to maybe hold this till the end of the meeting and give them a chance to come back on the meeting? Because I worry that they might not be able to have the gala.
well,
I don't have a problem. I mean, obviously, they should be here in case we have questions. The last time we delayed it, I think twice, and then when they showed up, we didn't have questions. And just for a little bit of history, in the past, it hasn't always been their fault. That's the applicant's fault when they're not here. Sometimes there's a communication glitch or a technology glitch. So unless anyone has a specific question, I don't have a problem approving it as is. Again, I also prefer if they're here, but I just don't think it's a deal breaker that they're not.
yeah. I mean, I guess I don't have a specific question for him. I guess it's just a sense of they should be here. But yeah, I guess it was in on the first. Yeah,
We do notify everyone on the agenda before the meeting. When we post, actually, so it's the week before we do notify folks.
so what's the pleasure? I'm not holding it to the end of the meeting. At times would be fine, but I don't see any questions anyway. So
I don't
guess the
have
way-
a question either, other than the question that the fact that they should be here.
yeah,
We're here. They can be
Eric?
here.
yeah, I agree.
I guess I would say I do love Berkshire Botanical Gardens. But I guess I don't know if I'd always be as agreeable going down the line if people aren't here for it. I mean, this one is short to the date. I don't know. I guess I would side with. I guess this time around I'm with Ed and just moving forward.
So I would say this, let's take a vote on this now. But I would also say, and Mark, and I'm sure this is already being done, just let Amy know that this board is very serious about the fact that whether we have questions or not, we would like people to show up. So that if we do have questions or concerns, that we can raise them. I mean, you can't really tell people that ahead of time. That doesn't seem to be the right way of doing it. So I have a motion and I have a second. So roll call vote. Garfield.
All right.
Eric.
Aye.
Ed.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
And aye, it's unanimous. Next one is for the same person, one all alcoholic license at 389 Main Street for the Berkshire Botanical Garden Gala on July 2nd from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve an all alcoholic license to Dana Audia at Berkshire Botanical Garden for the gala on July 2nd from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote. Garfield.
Aye.
Eric.
Aye.
Ed.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
And aye. It's unanimous. Deborah Mars and William Ryan for permission to install a driveway at 116 Brush Hill Road. I think I see Mike Parsons here, so we can just promote Mike if we have questions. That's great.
Steve, I'm
yeah.
going to have to recuse myself. I have a conflict with this.
Okay.
Mike, your mic is open.
Yeah. Mike, do you have anything you want to add before we vote?
No, I think it's pretty straightforward. There was a question about an existing access to an orchard that was used, and it pushed this lot beyond the 2 that are allowed. And so we have agreed to remove that orchard access as shown on the plan.
Perfect. Let's get a motion and then we'll have questions. So I have a motion.
Motion to approve.
I have a second.
Second that.
So motion by Ed, second by Eric. Eric, you have a question?
Yeah, I guess my question is how do we they say they're going to remove the second egress or what would end up being the third driveway. How do we hold them to it? And what's that detail? Does that detail them like just dropping a tree in front of the thing, or what do we mean by we're removing this existing access? Are they putting a curb back in? And like how far does this go?
Mike, I can tell first. I can answer part of that. It's a building inspector who will be monitoring this. But Mike, do you want to tell us how they close off that other egress to the orchard?
I think they could close it off with a couple of boulders, if that was sufficient. In your eyes, they could drop a tree across it. They could put a gate up. Whatever it is that you'd like to see them do. And as far as enforcement goes, I believe it would be up to the building inspector when they come in for their building permit to look into whether or not that happened. Or maybe your public works guy because I do understand, I understand the idea that you can only have 2 driveways on one lot. This is a little bit of a different situation because he has enough frontage to divide his property, in which case he could have had 4 driveways up there, 2 on each lot, but he chose not to. For whatever reason, and he tells me that both the Sheffield and the Great Barrington highway departments back their trucks in there and turn around for snow removal. But a rule's a rule. So I guess to answer your question, I'd probably suggest a couple of boulders just to prevent people from driving in there. I think it's probably just a gravel way that leads to it. Let it grow up with grass or take it out if that's your pleasure. Actually physically remove the gravel.
Any other questions or comments? I would just say that any way that they close it off so that it has a permanent closure would satisfy me. Whatever, I don't want them to have to spend tens of thousands of dollars if there's a cheaper way of doing it. So we have a motion and a second. It's a roll call vote. Garfield?
I actually had a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was muted. I'm sorry. I was muted. I'm just curious to know who has coverage. Let's say someone goes in through the boulders or the fence or whatever and gets hurt. Whose responsibility is that, and will that preclude us asking for something more substantial than boulders, or which are pretty good? But I'm just thinking. I don't know how it works. I don't know if someone's responsible for a blocked off driveway and someone gets hurt in that property, or is it the same as just property damage or someone getting hurt on your property?
Mark, do you have an answer to that?
I don't. I would assume that the property owner is insured for liability.
Okay.
So roll call vote, Garfield,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Ed,
Yes.
and yes, it's unanimous. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you so much. Good night. Thanks for
Right.
what you do.
Thank you. Emily Ivy Williams of Style and Franks for an amended common victualler in the alley at 289-291 Main Street. Emily, just want to give us a quick rundown of what's being amended?
Yeah, sure. So I was at the, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So I was at the triplex and it was fine. It just, I felt like I was kind of off the beaten path and someone had approached me with a better location. So I would just like to change my address to that location, which is the alley between Barrington Outfitters and the Tom's Toys building.
And that's a private alleyway?
Exactly, yes.
So
I'm sorry. Do
no,
you want to
go ahead.
mention first? I said
No.
the same question. I assume you have permission from whichever of the two buildings owns the property, and you're backed up, not on the public way.
Yes, yep. So I have permission from both Peter Drucker and Tom Levin. And so it's my understanding that they own like the first block of sidewalk, if you will, right on their building. So I am in the alleyway. I actually don't block, actually it's a moot point because I don't block that anyway. So I'm in the alley and my car is right against the building of Barrington Outfitters. And that will be my permanent location from until I close down. No more changing.
It adds a lovely sort of cheerfulness to the downtown atmosphere.
Yeah, thanks.
Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to grant an amended common victualler license to Emily Ivy Williams of Styling Franks in the alley of 289/291 Main Street.
Second.
Any other discussion? Roll call vote, Garfield,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
and I, unanimous. Good luck, Emily. So next is public hearings. First one is Jean-Francois Bazillion, manager for Bazillion's Fine Food, 684 Main Street, Great Barrington, for annual off-premise package store wine and malt license. What we'll do here, what my suggestion would be, is open the public hearing and then continue it to August 22nd, because we have an appeal on another liquor license, and I don't think we should go ahead with this until that appeal is heard from the ABCC. So do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
I make a motion to open the public hearing for Bazillion's Fine Food for an annual off-premise package store wine and malt liquor license.
Second.
Roll call vote, Garfield,
Yes.
Eric,
Aye.
Ed,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
and yes, aye. Next, do we have a motion to continue this public hearing to August 22nd, 6 p.m. Location to be Great Barrington Town Hall and remote. And there is a hand up. Let me just allow him to speak. So go ahead, just unmute yourself. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, ID.
Yes, go ahead. You can speak.
Respond.
Hey, Francois, you can speak. You're unmuted.
Oh,
Wait, so I'm on.
Yes,
no, you're not, because
yes, you
I
are.
don't know how to do it.
We can hear you. All you have to do is speak.
Okay.
If you can talk.
So wait,
about
so lost the first part of our slots. So if there was any questions, I was not able to hear them.
No, we didn't have any questions. We're about to continue this, as I think you knew, to August 22nd.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to continue the public hearing of Bazillion's Fine Food for an annual off-premise package store wine and liquor license to August 22nd, 6 p.m. at the location of Town Hall and remote.
Second.
Any discussion? Garfield?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
Lee?
Aye.
And aye, it's unanimous. Thank you very much. We'll see you in a few weeks.
Thank you.
Christine Bump, you've been promoted to be a panelist.
Do you have something you'd like to say? Just unmute yourself.
Hi.
Hi.
Sorry. I think we cut out for a second here. I didn't hear I just heard my last name.
Yeah, that's okay. Go ahead
Right.
and speak. You had something you wanted to say?
Okay, yeah. So I'm Christine, and this is Bill Heaton. So I think we need to probably move us to the next meeting. We kind of in a time, things didn't align as we wanted. We still are waiting on our farmer brewer's license from the state, which is what needs to happen prior to us getting the pouring permit from the town.
So just what I would ask you is just that you withdraw this, and then you'll just have to refile it again when you get that. Because if
Okay.
we open the public hearing, you're not really eligible for this yet. You will be.
Yeah, no, exactly. We just didn't want to just not show up.
No, and we do appreciate that.
Yeah.
So your request is to withdraw.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay, and we accept that. It doesn't require a vote, I don't believe. So we're all set. Amy will be in touch with you. You be in touch with Amy when you're ready.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Jeremy Davis, manager for B&E GB LLC, DBA East Rock Inn, 304 State Road, Great Barrington, for an annual on-premise hotel wine and malt liquor license. Jeremy, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're planning to do?
It's actually Betony GB is the name of the company, Betony.
Okay.
That's the name of the holding company. The name of the motel is East Rock Inn. We are hoping to open sometime in the fall, although that's still to be determined. It is an 18-room motel. We have taken it over from the Mountain View Motel, which was previously there. We will have 1 2-bedroom unit, 2 1-bedroom units, and 15 studio units. We'll have common areas out in the front of the motel for guests. We'll have a patio in front of the what will be the lobby. The lobby will also have a bar in it, and our intention is to serve drinks to the guests as requested. And there will be some fire pits and some casual gathering areas, both in the front yard and the backyard.
And so this will not be open to the public. This is for your guests.
That's correct.
Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve an annual on-premise hotel wine and malt liquor license to Jeremy Davis, manager of Betony GB LLC, doing business as East Rock Inn at 304 State Road in Great Barrington.
Second.
We did not open the public hearing, but I caught it in time. So if you withdraw that, Ed, you're usually good at letting me know when I really like that. So if you withdraw the motion and withdraw the second. So let's make a motion to open the public hearing.
Okay, I guess I should withdraw that motion.
Yes, please.
Withdraw the second.
And I make a motion to open the public hearing for Jeremy Davis, Betony GB LLC.
Second.
Roll call, Garfield.
Yes.
Eric.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
and I. Does anybody have any questions?
I do.
Yeah, go ahead, Garfield.
And I don't know if it's technical or not, but I believe there is a difference between a hotel and a motel. Are they not a motel and they're asking for a hotel wine? Does that make a difference? They are two different items.
Mark?
It doesn't make a difference as far as the license goes, no. It's just a pouring license. So hotel, motel,
How
not an
they,
issue for us.
I have a couple questions as well. If Garfield's all set.
yes.
So I guess my curiosity is with a hotel license, what distinguishes that from a restaurant or like a regular bar license? I guess just what the exact difference is on that. I feel like when we've had some bar licenses, we've gotten layouts of the facility and things like that. So just wondering the difference there, and then I guess this means that are the beverages are just not just staying, that they can just bring them everywhere, right? I guess is.
As long as it's on the property. The intention is to serve on the property.
Yeah.
And Mark, you want to answer the other?
Yeah, we do have plans here as part of the complete application for their patio and outside area. The ABCC will also conduct a site visit.
Okay.
So they'll ensure that it's in compliance with the request in the application.
And Eric, this is not open to the public, unlike the bar licenses that we approved. So this is only open to guests of the hotel, motel.
Okay. Yep. Thank you.
I have a question, Vivian Orlowski, go ahead.
Thank you, Steve. I'm actually asking for urgent help because I'm supposed to be hosting an AgCom meeting, Agricultural Commission meeting right now. And I logged in as normal, but I got a message back from Zoom that I don't have access to host the meeting because I'm logging in from a site that's not normally used for committees at townofgb.org. And they said they're going to send a code to townofgb.org, and I should put that code in, and then they'll let me have access. And I was hoping that Mark, I assume, has access to committees at townofgb.org, and he could email me. I sent an email to him and to you, and hoping to get your attention so that we can go ahead with the AgCom meeting that was scheduled for to start 12 minutes ago. I've been trying to do this since about 6:20, and I won't let me in.
Okay, thank you. I'll let Mark deal with this however he can. I'm not sure he can.
With the board's permission, I can jump off this meeting and try to assist her. Chris is on and can probably handle it. I'm sure he can handle the next few items if the board is comfortable with that.
I'm fine with that.
Thank you.
Mark, this is Chris. I think if Vivian could log in under committees, that would probably solve it. Or Amy got the code, one or the other.
Okay, so let's get back to this. Do you have any other questions for Mr. Davis, who I've completely lost now? Seeing none, do I have a motion? There he is. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Roll call vote. Garfield?
Aye.
Eric? Eric? You're muted.
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
Lee?
Aye.
And I. Do I have a motion on this license?
I make a motion to grant an annual on-premise hotel wine and malt liquor license to Jeremy Davis of Bethany GB LLC, doing business as East Rock Inn at 304 State Road in Great Barrington.
Second.
Any other discussion? Seeing none? There you go.
Well, hold on now. I'm still very new to all this, and boy, this seems just too easy.
So you can ask questions. We can debate it. We can't ask questions to Mr. Davis because I've closed the public hearing, but you can speak.
That was my thoughts. to
this is Chris.
anyone who can answer them. I'm trying to gain some knowledge. It just seems so easy. Come in, this is what I want. Boom, you got it. I mean, seems too easy. It's alcohol, just people.
If it's helpful, this is Chris speaking. If it's helpful at all, public hearing involves notification in the newspaper, notification of abutters. And that's often where concerns come from most, is abutters. And that's the purpose of the public hearing. And I don't want to say what the board should be listening for, but that would certainly be something that might be of concern, is if abutters had concern. Otherwise, in this particular instance, I think, as you've heard, it's limited to folks in the hotel or motel.
So it's the abutters get plenty of notice, obviously, whenever, like how early do they usually send these out?
I'm sorry, I don't know the details on that in terms of how often it's advertised or when.
Yeah.
Not as
And then
not as I am with special permits, but that's the intent of the process.
And then the ABC board, I believe, as Mark said, does a thorough walkthrough and they hold whatever they have, right?
Right.
Oh.
Anyone else?
That's the only insight I can give you, Garfield. I'm sorry.
Okay, then they will, obviously, if the ABCC doesn't find it up to their standards, then it's not going to fly, even though we say yes. I presume.
Yes, you are correct.
Maybe I'll open them up. Easy. Okay, thank you.
I don't think it's as easy as it sounds. Roll call vote. Roll call, Garfield. Roll call, Garfield.
Yes.
Eric.
Aye.
Ed.
Yes.
Lee.
Aye.
And aye. It's unanimous. Good luck.
Thank you.
We have 6 panelists and 24 attendees at this point. So, okay, next will be from our previous business, Main Street pedestrian crosswalk safety next steps. This is from April 11th meeting. Chris, do you want to lead off?
Sure. And Steve, I'll ask if there are any representatives from Beta Engineering in the audience to please raise your hand. And Steve, if you could promote them.
I'd be glad to.
The speaking role. It might be Tyler or Ken Ho.
I don't see Tyler. Oh, I got a hand up. Good. Tyler. That's Tyler.
Okay. While Steve is bringing our engineers from Beta Engineering in. So the board last discussed this in April, and our partners at Beta presented a plan to you about various interventions at the 2 crosswalks on Main Street at Railroad Street and the one at Rotary Way. Possible design interventions to make it safer for pedestrians to cross and making pedestrian crossing movements more noticeable to vehicles traveling on Main Street. That plan was in your packet for tonight. We did cover some concerns at the last meeting, at the April 11th meeting, and staff has some thoughts about how to proceed with the project to meet some of those concerns. Money to implement this project was included in the approved fiscal 23 capital budget. So at this point, we are just seeking the select board's direction as to which option to choose, the short-term option, the long-term option, or staff's recommendation would be some sort of in-between option. So we can share it on screen or proceed however you.
If you, Chris, if you would go over briefly the 3 options and staff's recommendation, please.
Sure. I'll let Ken and Tyler speak a little bit more detail, but briefly, the short-term options were simple markings at both Railroad Street and Rotary Way to increase visibility. The longer-term option is more of a more of an infrastructure project. It involves building out mid-block pedestrian islands in the middle of Main Street, where you can place signage and flashing beacons, for one thing, to make drivers alert that there's a pedestrian in the crosswalk. But those midway islands also provide a place for pedestrians to stop in a safe place, ensure that cars aren't coming, and then proceed across the second half of the street. Last time we acknowledged some of the concerns that the worst visibility for cars seeing pedestrians is when somebody is, let's say you're coming southbound on Main Street and somebody is crossing from the east to the west. If there is a car in the middle lane and you're in the outside lane, you are blinded. You can't see who's coming across the crosswalk. And so beacons or flashing lights would help alert you that somebody's in the crosswalk. One of the issues with the mid-block pedestrian islands, while they're great for visibility and a good pedestrian refuge, and they, in a sense, shorten the crossing distance for pedestrians, they are more of a challenge for plowing and clearing the street. And in particular, an island at the Rotary Way crossing poses some significant concerns to our emergency response staff, because that area southbound on Main Street at Rotary Way is where the southbound traffic is coming from one lane and it's just getting into two lanes. But that's an area where if we have a single lane, if there's a mid-block island in Main Street and cars, if emergency response vehicles can't get around and can't pass, and there's a mid-block island or something in front of them in the middle of Main Street, then they'd get stuck in a bottleneck and unable to respond. So that's a concern to our ambulance and fire crews and police and emergency responders. So again, short-term option, basic signalization and signage. Long-term option creates these mid-block crossings. Staff recommendation is to do a hybrid, to put a pedestrian island at the Railroad Street crossing, but not add an island to attend to these bottleneck concerns of our emergency responders at the Rotary Way. So island at Railroad, no island at Rotary Way. And Ken and Tyler can speak a little bit more about those options.
Sure, why don't you go ahead?
Sure. Hey, Chris, thank you. Mr. Chair, if I may, this is Ken Ho with Beta Group. And Tyler, feel free to chime in too. The only thing I would like to add regarding the option 2, which provide the center island, is the benefits of that from a pedestrian standpoint is when you're crossing Main Street, especially Main Street is 4 lane plus the bike lane. It's a very long crosswalk for pedestrian. By creating the island in the middle provides not just a refuge for a pedestrian. It actually allowed pedestrians to focus on crossing one direction of travel at a time. Because without the island, pedestrian would constantly has to look at both sides, the northbound traffic and the southbound. So with the middle island, basically allows the pedestrian to, hey, if you're crossing on one side, all you need to do is focus on the southbound traffic. And then once you arrive at the middle of the island, now you shift your focus to the other direction travel. So allows a much safer path for a pedestrian to cross Main Street. So from a pedestrian safety standpoint, the middle island, that's the benefits of having the island.
So do I have questions from the board? Lee, go ahead.
I have a comment rather than a question. I don't know if this is a comment period or just.
Yeah, of course.
So I feel extremely passionate about encouraging pedestrian usage in downtown and encouraging pedestrian safety. And I'm a big proponent of the 2 islands option. I understand that there are concerns about the emergency response access, but for far too long we've put our pedestrians at risk, and I think this is the time that if we're going to do something, we should do it right. And just listening to, is it Ken? I don't want to.
Yes.
Thank you.
No, you got it right.
This is an opportunity that many of us has been pushing for a long time, and I really do think that we should go with the 2 island option, and that we should put pedestrian safety as our priority and encourage the use of pedestrians in our town. If we want Great Barrington to be a destination and not just a cut through that people whiz through, we really need to protect our pedestrians and the people in our town. So I understand there are concerns, but I think the emergency responses can still get through. And I do urge the board to consider this option with the 2 islands, as Ken had mentioned. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed.
If it were just a painted island, the one near Rotary Way, would that work? That seems like we could, emergency vehicles could still go over it.
It would work as long as there wasn't a pole or a beacon in the middle.
Right.
As long as a car could get through and wouldn't have an obstruction.
Right. I'm also concerned with pedestrian safety, but
as is your staff. Yes, of course.
Right. If there's a fire at the other end of Main Street, I'm concerned about that too.
So Eric and then Lee.
Yeah, so I guess I got a question and a comment. So my questions are regarding the flashing beacons, and I guess what I would like to see is for I do want to see the flashing beacons there, but I would also like to see them to be similar to the ones that we have at our red lights and everything, where it holds pedestrians there for X amount of time and then starts flashing and tells the pedestrians they can cross, as opposed to just a constant flow of the light flashing on a summer day and traffic being constantly stopped there. So I guess I'm wondering if that's a possibility to kind of corral pedestrians, for whatever given time, and then give them the green light to cross.
Yeah, do you want to comment on
that? It is. I'll let Ken and Tyler comment. It is an issue. It is a potential issue to give a pedestrian a go signal or a walk signal. That creates the allure of a pedestrian exclusivity, which they do not necessarily have on a free-flowing street where there's not a traffic signal at that instant. So it could create some serious issues there. So the way the beacons work is as a warning to both sides to use caution, but I'm not sure if we can create an exclusive pedestrian versus exclusive vehicle phase. I'll let Tyler or Ken speak more to that.
Sure. This is Tyler from Beta. The beacons that we've been proposing are the rectangular rapid flashing beacon. You might have seen them around where there's a button and there's kind of like a rectangular flashing yellow light that will sort of wig-wag back and forth really fast and then eventually turn off. Those lights do not require that vehicles stop or drivers stop. They're purely there to emphasize that the crosswalk is there. And they would illuminate when a pedestrian activates the push button to turn them on. Typically, they flash for a certain amount of time, usually however long it takes a pedestrian to cross. And then they are held off for a certain amount of time before they're activated again. So, should the pedestrians wait until the light starts flashing before they cross, it would corral them for a little bit of time. But that's not to say that they, couldn't just cross as if they were without a flashing light there in the first place, right? Providing a pedestrian traffic signal with, red lights or, walk, don't walk is a completely different ball game. There are what we call warrants that govern sort of the applicability of those, which have not been evaluated as part of the project. I would note that we need to be a little mindful of the spacing. So knowing that there is already a light at Elm Street, these two crossings are within 350 feet of that. And so to have the signals that closely spaced together isn't recommended.
Yeah, I guess I wasn't asking to put another red light there. I guess I was more asking for maybe the flasher not to flash continuously. So like a lot of times when I'm driving through town during the summer, there'll be 6 cars stopped. People will walk by, one car goes, then more people are walking by, then another car goes. So I guess what I'm asking is if the flasher can just not activate continuously, so the whole flash becomes mute. Just because if you're driving through town, I have to drive through town a lot for work. So if you're driving through town on a summer day, that flasher is going to be running 8 hours straight, on a busy summer day, and it's going to lose its effectiveness, I guess, is what I'm concerned about. So if it was like every 2 minutes the flasher goes off, then people can cross, I guess is kind of the way I'm asking this question. If there's some sort of time that we can put on it so it's not continuously flashing and pedestrians know they should wait a little bit before attempting to cross the road.
Sure.
Until the
Yeah,
flash.
I believe that you can program in, what I dub is like a cooldown. So, it activates and then it won't flash the lights again for a certain period of time, even if a pedestrian pushes the button. We can explore a bit more in terms of what that timing is, or is it a minute, 30 seconds, whatever, to let the vehicles proceed. But yeah, this would be pedestrian push button activated. It wouldn't be flashing constantly.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Ken.
Okay.
Oh, I was going to add that they can be timed. I understand exactly what you were trying to point at. The flashing beacon system that we are recommending, they will not be continuously running. And you are absolutely right. Sometimes, with light that's continuous flashing, they tend to lose their effectiveness. People sometimes just blow through it. So in this case, there will be time in such a way that when someone pushes the button, we'll make sure that it'll flash. The duration would be for that person to cross Main Street, and if 2 seconds later or 3 seconds later someone comes and push the button, it will not come on. The pedestrian would have to wait because car at some point have to continue on. They can't be just stop and go every 5 seconds or 10 seconds. So yeah, they will be timed so that traffic are not interrupted, too much.
Well, let me just ask a follow-up, then Lee, then Garfield.
Sorry, Steve. I was just going to add, we need to be clear that just because it's not blinking doesn't mean there might not be a pedestrian crosswalk. Pedestrians have
correct
without the blinking light. It's a block crossing where pedestrians have the right to cross.
Right. So let me ask this question. If you go to major cities, you hit the button on a stoplight and it says wait. Will this have an audio component where people just crossed, so it's frozen out, you hit the button and it says to you wait? Can that be programmed into this?
There's an audio feature in those buttons on nowadays. So the one that we propose could be included with that audio or message.
Because that would be much more effective than because if somebody, Chris is right, if you don't even look at the light, you just hit the button and start walking, some people when they cross. So at least there will be something that reminds them that they have to wait. Yeah, Lee, go ahead.
So I want to go back to the question of what option and whether we have a raised median and a refuge island at the Rotary. And, I'm going to continue with my advocating strongly for this island, this raised island, because if we don't have one there, we're not going to have an opportunity to put that beacon there. And we're not providing proper safety measures, in my mind, for pedestrians crossing. If it's just markings as it is now, it's really not providing the maximum safety measures as we can provide to our pedestrians, which should be our number one concern with the amount of pedestrians crossing. And the concern, which I recognize for emergency vehicles, they can get around. So if you think about how many pedestrians are crossing the streets and having issues with safety at this point versus the chance that an emergency vehicle wouldn't pass through, you kind of weigh the two. So again, if we don't have a raised median and a refuge island at the Rotary, we're not going to have the ability to put a beacon there, and we're not going to be providing the maximum safety as we could.
Garfield.
Yes, I have a couple of questions. One, would the signage or the lights that we're going to or intend to be putting up at the high school, could that be something that we can use on Main Street? And the other one's a little bizarre, but I don't mind that painted idea like Ed had mentioned, but can it be done in a 3D style?
I got quite a few ahead of you, Lee, but I see your hand. Anyone want to answer that? The high school is an intersection crash detection. It's a new concept for Massachusetts. Hasn't even been put into the high school yet, and I believe it will be the first one in the state.
Right, but my question is, can it be used in town?
I'm not sure
that
that's
Yeah, I'm not
I don't
familiar
know,
with
man.
what DOT is doing at the intersection. So
It has no, Garfield, my only knowledge of that is it has nothing to do with pedestrians. It has to do with cars. So I don't
People
know.
are worried about cars and pedestrians. They kind of go together, It's hard to separate the two in town.
Right. But this, at least what I know of this device, is it's used to warn cars of other cars coming, not of pedestrians. It's just a little bit different. I'm not sure. I don't think anybody knows the answer to that right now. And what about the 3D?
You've seen those paintings all over. People can. I'm wondering if you can create that. As Ed stated, a painted awareness sign, for lack of a better term, at the moment, that would look as though it was there. You know what I mean? You know what 3D looks like.
I know what 3D, yeah, I guess we'd have to investigate that.
I'll have to get back on those two, Garfield.
Mm-hmm.
Eric, you have more? Your hands up, please. Go right ahead.
Yes, I do. So, I guess switching over to the islands, I'm hesitant about the island at Rotary Way, and the shortening and making the road one lane for any longer than it has to be. Also, I understand the need possibly I do understand the need for the island at the Railroad Street crossing there. And I think a halfway point raised island there would be beneficial. But if our firefighters and first responders are concerned about the second one there, I would totally lean with them and leave it out. I do feel that most of the instances we hear about and see have been at the Railroad Street crossing. So I do feel that we need to make that as safe as possible. But my concern would be making the road southbound lane any skinnier than it already is. And I just don't know that we need that island at that spot is my thinking there. So just wanted to make that statement.
Thanks. Lee, go ahead.
So I'd like to have Ken and Tyler speak to this because I've never seen an island that's just simply markings without a beacon, and I want to get their take on the effectiveness of that. In my research, an island is going to be raised and have a median for pedestrians to feel safe. So I would like them to speak to that, please. And also, I would also like some clarifications when the emergency vehicles say they're concerned versus them not being able to get through. What are they actually saying? So I guess I'm going to go first.
Ken?
Yeah, so regarding, Mr. Chair, if I may, so regarding the painted island versus a raised or physical island, the how effective is, a painted island, certainly painted island is not as effective as a physical raised island. And with the painted island, anyone can just drive over it. So it could potentially provide a false alarm, a pedestrian thinking that, they are in a median island, but it's a painted island, but it's really not fully protected. So with the physical island, definitely, you could put another, beacon in the middle, added, visibility, because Main Street is just so wide. So that's all the experience with the painted and the physical island.
Thank you. I'm going to take one person who's got their hand up, attendee. James, state your name and address.
Good evening, board. This is James Garzone, 84 North Plain Road. My only comment is that since the professionals are stating that the raised island would cause issues, I think we should listen to them as they are the professionals. Safety is always an issue that we are very concerned about. But again, relying on the professionals who state we need not a raised island, I would suggest. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Garfield, go ahead.
Yes, I'm wondering why can't we employ the same type of measures we used on South Street that seem to be effective? Because if everyone remembers, there's been a couple of fatalities down a little bit south of Big Y, and I don't think we've had that concern any longer. So why can't we use something that is used there?
I think that's a flashing beacon, Garfield, if I'm right.
Chris, I'm not quite honestly sure, but I know there's not been any incidents, as there were, of people dying there. So it must be effective. So that's my question. Can't we use
signage and beacons? I think is the Main Street, South Main Street.
Lee, go ahead.
So I'd like to speak to what James just said. Listening to Ken and Tyler, who are the professionals, what they've just said was that by having only a painted false island, we could give pedestrians a false sense of security, and that could actually increase the risk to pedestrians because they feel that that this is actually protective, and the way that people drive on Main Street, without that ability to start slowing down, they're just going to go straight through. So I think the island at Rotary is actually necessary to show people that they are entering a highly dense area with pedestrians, and that we ask people to slow down. I think this is actually crucial because, again, if we don't have a raised median and a refuge island at Rotary, we're not going to be able to have a beacon. So people are going to still blow through, and then they're going to come to a quick stop at Railroad. So I definitely urge everyone to think that pedestrian safety. This is the one time that we've actually addressed this, and I would ask Chris to detail the exact concerns. Are you saying that emergency vehicles cannot go through if there's an island there? I'd like to get some clarification on that, please.
Yes, that is their concern. As you know, traffic can back up quite a ways, and the emergency vehicles will use whatever extra space they can in the middle of Main Street, or they'd have to go out into the other lane, the northbound lane. So, they're hoping not to have to do that, and to be able to go down the middle if they have to, rather than veer into the oncoming vehicle lane.
Ed, go ahead.
Yeah, we don't have the luxury of saying we're going to do all we can for one thing and ignoring what we're causing in the other. And perfect is often not an option. And I have, in another town in another state, seen somebody die waiting for an ambulance to get there, which was stuck in traffic. It's a very real concern of our emergency services. And I sort of want to echo what James said, is they're the experts. And we can't do what's perfect. Whatever we do here is not going to be perfect. There'll be some risk.
Yeah, I think it's kind of interesting if you put the beacons up and put the raised islands up. I think that's still giving you a false sense of security because there is no light, which was what Eric was talking about. And I'm not proposing more stoplights on Main Street before anyone thinks that's what I'm proposing. People are going to just walk all the way through, whether there's an island there or not, because they think they have the right of way, and they do have the right of way. So I'm not sure that that raised island isn't giving a false sense of security also. There's nothing to force them to stop. And where if you're crossing a street, Boylston Street in Boston, there's a sign that says, with an orange figure that says don't walk. With here, there's not going to be that. So that concerns me. Garfield and then Lee.
Yes, so I'm just thinking a little bit about money. And again, I'll echo, if it's working on South Main Street, why can't it work in downtown, and maybe won't cost us as much since we have something that is effective. I think we should not ignore something that works. And also, I think you raised the island. It's a great idea. It's just something else for someone else to hit. It's not a guarantee as well. As Ed said, nothing's going to be perfect. We have to look for the best option. And right now, I'm going to reiterate, I don't disagree with Lee's sense of urgency of protecting pedestrians. I'm all for that. But again, I'm all for saving some money if we already have something that's proven effective. And have we had a death or anything down in South Main Street? We have not. Since it appears, since that apparatus has been installed, whether it's flashing beacons or et cetera, it seems to be doing its job.
Lee, go ahead.
So I'd like to get Ken and Tyler's, have you talked to the emergency vehicles or emergency responders about this at all?
Yes, we did meet with them. We had a meeting with them, and they did express concern regarding the proposed raised island at Rotary. And we did try to make some concessions, instead. So if we were to, there are two options other than a physical, if we were to put an island there, it's the type of curbing. So we had suggest that, maybe perhaps a mountable curbing, not the 90-degree type. So the mountable is something that, emergency vehicle could easily drive over it. But with that design or the curb feature, you wouldn't be able to put a light in the middle of the island just because, emergency vehicle will drive over it. So that's one option, but it is a physical island. And certainly, the other option is just painting an island instead of a physical island. So that was also being discussed when we met with them.
Just, if I could, I just want to respond to Mr. Reed's comment about South Main. Taking a look here at what looks like Google Street View, that crosswalk utilizes a system with flashing beacons, yellow flashing beacons, the vehicular beacons. So just one flashing yellow light in each direction that appears to be activated by a push button. So this system would be similar to that. However, the beacons would be a different kind and shape, and they would flash in a different pattern. The rectangular rapid flashing beacons are a bit brighter and they flash quicker. And so they're attempting to gather the motorist's attention in a different way. So similar systems, they accomplish a similar goal.
With that.
Lee, go ahead.
Okay, so listening to what Ken and Tyler just said, I'm looking for a compromise. So if we had the mountable curb and still had the raised median, and we didn't put the beacon in the middle, Ken and Tyler, do you think that this would be safer for pedestrians rather than just painted? Which would also allow emergency vehicles to go through?
Yeah, I mean the mountable island, it's a physical island, and that would definitely discourage vehicle from driving over it. And emergency vehicle would know that they could drive over it if needed. So that's certainly slightly that definitely better than just a painted island.
So again, following up on that, if we did have that raised island, that would, provide some additional safety to pedestrians. Cars could then see that there are people, crossing the 4 lanes of traffic, and it would allow emergency vehicles to pass if needed. So I would propose with that compromise of having at the Rotary Way to have a mountable raised pedestrian refuge.
I
If I could add, if I may, one of the additional benefits to having a mountable or a raised device of some sort at Rotary Way is that crosswalk is at a location where the roadway is widening from 1 lane to 2 lanes. And so there's a lot going on there where, vehicles are diverging and you kind of have this strange mixing zone. Mm-hmm. The way that we've striped the island formalizes that into a single lane and pushes that diverge point to basically Church Street. Is it without issues on its own because now we sort of have that diverge, but it's, a little shifted? No, but it will kind of reduce the amount of lanes that the pedestrian has to cross, particularly against southbound traffic. Northbound traffic is still 2 lanes at that point. If it's not a vertical device with vertical granite curbing, we can't put signage in there. Obviously, the truck would hit them if it tried to straddle it or drive over it. And so to previous points, the pedestrians would likely cross the whole thing in one go anyways. But it would provide a space where, if somebody wanted to stop and look the other direction, that they could do so. So I hope that kind of wraps up the whole discussion about mountable versus raised versus flush.
I have a couple concerns, and that is one, which I expressed the first presentation in April, is that we're narrowing Main Street down to a bottleneck, and I'm not really in favor of that. I think that's just a terrible idea. And my other is we're all not taking into account that when people cross the street, and we've all seen this, they're oblivious. And I'm not saying just 1 or 2. They're the people who are talking on the phone, drinking their coffee, holding their 4-year-old, and not paying any attention. I mean, we got it. People got to be more responsible. The drivers do too. I get that. But people crossing the street on Main Street are some of the most irresponsible people I've ever seen. I mean, there are cars coming, and just because you have the right of way doesn't mean you just step out and hope they stop and not pay any attention. And I don't care what we put up short of a brick wall, we're still going to have some problems.
Well, that's been acknowledged that there will be problems. I said nothing's perfect. It won't be perfect. But again, as Lee reiterated her point again, I would like to see something that if this is going to cost us more money than we need to spend, then I'm not for it. If it's something that's working already, as I said 3 times, why spend more money than we have to? We have a proven thing. There's been people dying there. There has not been that issue. That was important to us. We really took care of that. We made it so it was safe. Now it's safe. What's wrong with putting the same thing in Main Street if it's safe? So the gentleman said it's about the same. Tyler says a similar apparatus or machine, etc. that's being used.
So do I have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the recommended safety measures for Railroad Street, but use a mountable curb option for the Rotary Way crossing.
Do I have a second? That fails for lack of a second. Do I have another option? Motion.
Well, I make a motion that we use the same system as we're using on South Street, as it has proven to be effective.
Do I have a second? That motion fails. Do I have another motion? Ed, you're muted, but we'll see.
All right, let's try this. Move that we do the raised island at Railroad Street and a painted one without the center post at Rotary Way.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Discussion.
So with that being said, that's with the beacons at each location, but only on the sides of the roads down by Rotary Way.
Correct.
Is that to confirm that? So there'll be 3 beacons at Railroad, 1 on each side and 1 in the center. And then down at Rotary Way, there'll only be 2 beacons, 1 on each side of the road. And then, right, can I get that confirmed, Chris?
That is correct.
Okay.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Lee.
Are we still narrowing? Can you just reiterate what you were saying about the narrowing? The narrowing begins at Rotary and continues.
Continues on Church Street.
We go from 2 lanes to 1 lane?
Right, but it's painted in this particular motion, not raised.
We still have the problem that it's going to narrow it to 1 lane and create a bottleneck.
Can we not do that?
We
Can we not narrow it down?
You could leave it just as it is now and just put beacons on the sides. That is possible.
I have a question before you leave.
Yeah, go ahead, Garfield.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that we.
No, there's already a motion on the table. We can't.
Okay, I'm sorry. Then I can't make a motion.
No. Lee, go ahead.
So Eric, to speak, I know that, and I know Steve and Eric have this similar viewpoint about not wanting to create a bottleneck. But again, this is a busy business district, and we're, as far as I can see, we're trying to encourage people to come downtown, and we do have many pedestrians trying to cross. And I think, being a responsible board, that pedestrian safety is something that we should recognize. And I think that traffic calming is part of this pedestrian safety measure. So again, it's only for a short period of time, but I think, giving cars that, a sense that, yes, this is a business district and we expect you to slow down. I think that this is the right choice to do, to create this traffic calming measure that brings it down from, multiple lanes to 1 lane, slows it down, allows pedestrians to cross, and helps our local businesses. So I would strongly recommend that we continue with the direction that we are going.
So the motion on the table is to put the raised island on Railroad Street and put the painted on Rotary Way, but it would reduce it to 1 lane. So any other comments before we vote on that?
Yeah, I guess I am concerned about reducing it down to 1 lane there. So I would I don't know if we can make an amendment to the thing.
You can make an amendment to the motion.
I would like to make an amendment to just keep the Rotary Way the way it is with just the 2 beacons and not narrowing it down, and then keep the Railroad Street as the motion says.
So the motion is to not reduce to 1 lane at Rotary Way. Do I have a second to the amendment?
Let me second it for discussion.
Go ahead.
I don't have the same hesitation about slowing traffic down, but for the sake of putting 3 votes for anything, I think the way that's going, I would support this amendment. It'd be my second choice, but for the sake of compromise.
I think we can encourage the pedestrians to walk another 30 yards down to the other one if there's big concern. The one on Railroad Street is the most used, and I feel that I think without just changing traffic dramatically and for safety of pedestrians, we can encourage them to use the Railroad Street crossing more and just have the beacons at the Rotary Way. I think that would be a great improvement.
Yeah, and while Lee, I agree with you, we want to promote downtown. Where we disagree, respectfully, is that I agree that safety for pedestrians is important. But if we're promoting downtown, reducing that to one lane is many people will not want to come down at all because of the bottleneck. And that concerns me.
So can I speak?
Of course.
So we had a recommendation earlier that, it goes from the 2 lanes to the 1 lane. So, when we think about talking to professionals and recognizing their opinion, we're bypassing what they said in the very beginning, way back when they went through the presentation. So again, Ken and Tyler and whoever, came to us and Chris, the benefits of starting to narrow the traffic and start the traffic calming measures earlier to give cars a sense that this is a busy area. So I think if we wait to narrow it, we're not giving really enough time for cars to make that transition. They're still going to be going, very, very fast, and we're putting more pedestrians at risk. So, I'm willing to forego the raised island at Rotary, but I feel very strongly about narrowing the roads and just slowing down traffic for this, these couple blocks. I mean, there's so many people traveling and walking on the streets. We have kids, we have the elderly. I mean, where are we, I just think that we're missing the whole point. This has been an issue for so long, and this is a chance to rectify it. So I guess I asking for Tyler and Ken to, since they were here from day one and they put the recommendation together to narrow it when they did, if you could speak up and, talk.
There's a motion, so now it's board's time to discuss.
Okay. So maybe, yeah.
Well, I'm sure this is probably not going to fly, but I'm still a little foggy on procedure. Can I amend that we take this to the public?
There's already a motion, so let's get through this motion.
You can't do that. Okay, that's why I asked.
But I would surely allow, it's a little out of order. I understand you want to take this to the public, but I think that's what we're elected for. I don't know how the rest of the board feels.
Well, I understand that, but we are charged with thinking for the public. You're right, but if the public doesn't think it's something we need, then we're giving them something that they don't need or don't want. That's why I'm asking.
I just had a procedural question. Since there was a vote on the table before the amendment came, can we vote on that first motion without the amendment? No?
No, you have to vote on the amendment.
We never got a chance to, okay.
Yeah, that's the way procedure works. In order to vote on Ed's original motion, we would, if you want to keep that whole, then you would have to vote down the amendment. Okay, so we have a motion on the table, which is to amend the original motion by not reducing it to 1 lane at Rotary Way. We've had a motion, we have a second. So roll call vote. Garfield.
I don't know.
I'll come back to you.
Thank you.
Eric.
Aye.
Ed.
Aye.
Lee.
No.
Garfield.
No.
And aye, so the amendment passes 3-2. Okay, now the original motion, which is, and stop me if I get this wrong, but is to have Railroad Street with the raised islands, the 3 beacons, have Rotary Way with this painted island, not reduce it to 1 lane, and to have 2 beacons.
What do you mean?
Again.
What do you mean not reduce it? I thought.
Not reduce it. We just voted not to reduce it to 2 lanes. The amendment changed the original motion.
So this one now we're voting on, what's the difference?
So this one we're voting on, which is the original motion as amended, which is Railroad Street has the raised islands. It has 3 beacons. Rotary Way has 2 beacons, painted island around the crosswalks and not reducing it to 1 lane.
Isn't that what we just voted on?
No, what we just voted on was the amendment, which was to change Ed's motion. Sorry, Ed, I have to call it your motion because I don't know how else to do it. Change Ed's motion from reducing it to 1 lane, and Eric's motion was to not reduce it to 1 lane.
Oh, so I wanted to reduce it to 1 lane, so I guess I voted wrong.
No, you voted no.
Oh, okay.
You voted correctly.
So if I wanted to reduce it, if I do want it to reduce it, I have to say yes for the next one?
No, if you want to reduce it to 1 lane, I shouldn't tell you this, but you have to vote no on this one because this one will make it 2 lanes. The motion right now will make it 2 lanes. It passes. Any other discussion? I realize there's a hand up in the audience, but this is board time now because we're at our discussion point. Okay, so let me be really clear again so no one says they were unclear. Railroad Street, 3 beacons, raised island, Rotary Way, a smaller painted island, 2 beacons, and continue it as 2-way, not reduce it to 1-way. That is the motion we're voting on. And Eric and Ed, since you made the motion and the amendment, I want to make sure you agree with that.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so this is a roll call vote. Yeah, Lee, go ahead.
When it gets to Railroad Street, does it go to 1-way on this motion?
1 lane?
1 lane, yeah.
No, it was never, Railroad Street was never 1 lane. It was reduced from Elm to Rotary Way. Am I correct on that, Tyler or Ken?
Yes.
Or Chris? Thank you.
Yeah, there's so much room in the middle at Railroad Street. There was always room for a raised island. So the proposal would never have narrowed it.
Right, because there is a left turn lane going towards Railroad Street. And so there's already a painted gore area opposite that to have vehicles not use the left turn lane as another through lane.
So I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, Garfield.
Aye.
Eric.
Aye.
Ed.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
And aye. It passes unanimously.
Thanks. So our
Thanks,
next
everyone.
steps will be to progress with the design refinements and specifications, talk with Mass DOT and Federal Highway, and then we'll be in touch about a schedule.
Thanks, everyone. I appreciate it. New business, vote to appoint Julie Idjar, to the tree committee. And I actually got to know Julie on Parks and I still messed up your name. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to appoint Julie to Parks. I mean, to trees, to the tree.
Okay, I'm the one who mentioned Parks. Sorry.
To the tree committee.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote. Garfield.
Aye.
Eric.
Aye.
Ed.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
And aye. Next is the Housatonic Valley Association, Allison Dixon, presentation discussion of the Great Barrington Road Stream Crossing Management Plan.
And Alice, this is Chris speaking. Allison is here and, oh, good. Thanks for bringing Allison in as a panelist.
Either Chris or Allison, you want to introduce this? Whoever, Chris?
Sure, I'll give you a quick update. Housatonic Valley Association, I'll let Allison tell you all about it, but they've been working throughout the watershed of the Housatonic River, the health of the watershed, health of the river, and working with towns to assess the stream crossings, wherever streams go under roads, looking both at wildlife connectivity and stream and hydrologic connectivity. But also working with towns to identify where culverts need to be replaced just from an infrastructure point of view. And we worked with Allison's team a year or two ago. They were studying all the culverts and streams in Great Barrington and assessed each one. on ecological, hydrological, and sort of infrastructure needs. And I'll let Allison tell you about that and the results of her work.
Sure. And thank you so much, Chris. I appreciate the introduction. You did a great job.
And thanks for your patience.
So
We've been
I
wanting
am
to do this
here
for a while.
tonight, really, and I do have a PowerPoint presentation, but I know your meeting has already been long. So I'm wondering if it's best just to share this verbally and make you aware of where we are at with this project. The goal of this project was to create a road stream crossing management plan for the town of Great Barrington. And we finally have a draft plan complete and available for viewing digitally, and we delivered paper copies to Great Barrington. We assessed, of course this is in the PowerPoint, all public road stream crossings, as well as where we had permission, private crossings as well. And they were analyzed for flood risk. We met with town staff, key stakeholders, to determine what road stream crossings were a priority for the town. And we also looked at what came up as a flood risk concern, and also which ones are cold water priorities. So where is there likelihood of concerns about fish being able to move up and down? And so all that data is in this road stream crossing management plan as prioritizations individually, and then they're overlaid to see which ones float to the top. So now you have a road stream crossing management plan where you have all the data of each of the crossings, kind of a roadmap of where to go from here with replacement, something that you can reflect upon. This is a living document, so we encourage it to be updated. There is a map that accompanies the plan, so you can locate where the crossings are in the plan. And part of the process was to complete the preliminary design of a top priority crossing. And that has been done for one crossing on Brush Hill Road, which was identified by the town of Great Barrington as a concern. And it is also identified as a cold water stream. So that crossing is ready to go towards the next stage of permitting, review, and garnering funding for construction. And we'll be following up with the town, with Chris and Sean, to determine how they want to proceed. It does look like we have some additional funding to support the town in some of that next step. So we'll be reaching out to the town regarding that in the new fiscal year. We do encourage the town we suggest a period of public comment on the draft plan, and that we would incorporate the comments into the final plan document. Maybe we've missed some crossings. We certainly went through a time where we had the town staff review and indicate, did we forget any? Did some get missed? And a few were added. But we do encourage that the town really considers adopting this formally, officially adopted. It can be referenced in an existing plan. I know the MVP plan is already complete. That can help give more weight to the priorities, and just having gone through this process can support garnering funding too. I wanted to just ensure that HVA is not going to disappear off the map. We want to be here to support the town as you move forward, and especially in that initial priority crossing, and keep the conversation going to support any future replacements that meet our goals and yours.
So let me ask this to both Allison, Chris, and Mark. Can we make copies of this available in the libraries and at the town hall, and then schedule a public comment period at one of our next meetings? And then we can vote to adopt it after we hear public comment. Does that make sense to everyone?
And Chris, do you have the facility to print like the larger map 2x3, or do you want us to provide some additional copies?
That'd be great, Alston. Yeah, let's talk about that and how we can make it available both in print and online. They're very, very large files.
Yeah.
A little bit unwieldy. So let's see how we can do that and get the word out.
And it's easier. It's kind of easier to flip through, I think, the paper and looking at the map. So yes, let's have a conversation, Chris, and we'll see how we can support that and get that going in July.
That'd be great.
Great. And then we can come back to the board.
Yeah. Ed?
Yeah, just a question probably for Chris and Mark. The fact that we don't have a DPW superintendent eyeballing this, is there a reason that should make us nervous, or is there enough oversight?
No, Allison, so you know Sean has left the position for another town.
I'm out of the loop. I'm so buried. My head is buried with work.
No, Sean was fully involved in the drafting of this. So
Okay.
you can rest assured that Public Works was on top of this, as was planning and conservation. So,
And I have already been before the Conservation Commission to inform them about the plan, and they have a copy.
Right. Any other questions?
I just have a question.
Of course.
Is this the same establishment that I've seen your signs or your work in Connecticut as well, in Route 7?
Yes, we do work in Connecticut. That's our main office on Route 7 in Connecticut. Our Housatonic watershed extends all the way down to the Long Island Sound.
Thank you.
Allison, thank you for waiting through the meeting, and we'll have you back as soon as we schedule the public comment.
Well, my praise is back to you. You're an impressive board. It's been interesting listening.
Thank you, Allison, and thank you. Good work
Have
that
a
you're
good
doing
night.
for us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Select Board liaison list. Mark?
Okay, so in your packets for this evening, we included an up-to-date select board liaison list. And the list that you see in your packet is the one that was approved back in October 25th to be specific. So going forward, we will be sure to include this conversation on the agenda for your annual reorganization meeting in May. And we've put a note in our annual operations calendar to remind us to do that. So before you begin your discussion on this list, I just wanted to suggest or recommend that perhaps you remove a few of these assignments, just because I don't think they're as necessary today as they may have been at one time. And those would be the COVID task force, which we are no longer meeting in person for anymore. We're only sharing updates through emails. The emergency medical services liaison, marijuana, and parking.
Does anyone have a problem with removing those four? Seeing none. So as Mark said, this will be a little more intuitive next year when we do it during our reorganization meeting. But if you look at these now, is there anyone that wants to get off of one of their assignments? Because now would be the time to speak. And how this works is because we haven't done this, is typically what happens is we do this kind of as a volunteer, say you want or you don't want to. It's really chair who makes the final decision, but rarely does it come down to that. Usually we as members can figure it out. Ed?
Yeah, it's not really the question you asked, but Eric and I have both expressed interest in the planning board housing subcommittee. Yeah.
If no one, does anyone want to get off with that?
This is the planning board subcommittee. Is that what you're speaking
The
about?
housing subcommittee. No,
Yeah.
I'd like to stay.
And Garfield?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so we're gonna leave it as is. We can't put a quorum on there. Well, it wouldn't make much sense to put a quorum on there. Any other ones? So we will leave this as is to be revisited at next May. Select Board Town Mission Statement. There was provided to us our current mission statement and 3 options. And I don't know how the board wants to move ahead with this. They want to discuss this tonight. They want to have another option. What's the wish of the board?
I'm ready to
Another
vote.
option, another date.
I'm sorry, Garfield. What
Another option meaning another meeting date. Is what you're saying?
Well, if we want more time to look at this, that's all I'm saying.
I
And
wouldn't-
Lisa, she's ready to vote. Ed, Eric,
I can vote tonight. I'm
we have 3 options plus our current mission statement. What's the pleasure of the board?
I like option 3. Let me try it this way.
Yeah, I think so.
Anyone else?
I'm good with all the, I guess if I was to give my opinion, I liked option 2 better, but I have nothing wrong with 3 or 1. So
I like option 1.
yeah.
Let's go back to the median on Main Street. It might be easier. Yeah, I think they're all an improvement over the one we have now. Nothing wrong with the one we have, but I think they're all just a little bit better. What's the pleasure of the board?
You and Garfield want to weigh in? And we'll see.
Yeah,
I don't think any of
Garfield,
us
is there any
object
one that
to
you
it.
like better than the other?
Okay. I like 1.
I like the past history in 3. That's what kind of drew it to me, but I have no problem with, I will support any of those 3.
Ditto.
Lee, make a motion.
You're putting on me now, huh? Nice one. Okay. I make a motion to accept revised statement option 1.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call vote. Garfield?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
Lee?
Aye.
And aye. It's unanimous.
So revise.
So let's read that. Great Barrington strives to foster an inclusive, sustainable, and welcoming community with opportunity for all through responsible governance. And so for those of you who don't have it in front of them, that is the mission statement of the town.
Very nice.
If you don't mind, I just want to say thank you to the board. The original mission statement was approved in 2008. And of course, I think at that time, the recession was what was on all of our minds, and that has since changed. And this was identified as a moderate priority. I know the board is aware of that. I just wanted to remind everyone else watching tonight that this is something we identified as a priority. So I'm thrilled to have a new mission statement to share. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Mark, do you want to talk about our response to the open meeting law complaint?
Sure. So last item on our agenda tonight, on June 17th, we received a complaint alleging that 2 select board members violated the open meeting law during our process of drafting a short-term rental bylaw. I've been asked to read a statement this evening, and if the board agrees with this position, the position that's outlined in the statement, Counsel David Dineski will craft a formal response in line with this position on behalf of the board. So I'm going to go ahead and read that now. Report on open meeting law complaints of Antonio Sigala and Daniel Seitz. On June 17th, 2022, the town manager's office received 2 identical complaints signed by Antonio Sigala and Daniel Seitz on behalf of 8 other named persons, asserting that select board members, Bannon and Davis, violated the open meeting law over the course of 2 board meetings on March 7th and May 23rd, 2022. The complaints state that on March 7th, the select board asked 2 board members to revise a draft bylaw proposal on short-term rentals and present a revised draft for review at a later board meeting. The complaints reference a revised draft that was presented to the board at its May 23rd meeting and state that this sequence of events proves that a de facto subcommittee operated in de facto violation of the open meeting law and that there was no public notice and opportunity to be present at the subcommittee meetings. And that's a quote. I have reviewed portions of the video recordings of the board's meetings of March 7th and May 23rd, which are referenced in the complaints. I also consulted with town council, and I would offer the following for the board's consideration. The open meeting law applies to public bodies, including multiple member boards, commissions, committees, or subcommittees. It states that a subcommittee shall include any multiple member body created to advise or make recommendations to a public body. Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 18. In considering issues related to creation of a subcommittee, the Attorney General's office has stated that the law defines subcommittee as a multiple member body created to advise or make recommendations to a public body. The Attorney General's office has also established a 3-part test to determine whether a group of individuals is a public body that is subject to the open meeting law. And the questions are as follows. 1, whether the entity is, quote, within government and not excluded from the definition of, quote, public body. Whether the entity is a, quote, empowered or is, quote, empowered to act collectively. And 3, whether the entity serves a public purpose. And you should refer to Open Meeting Law Determination 2013-56. In this instance, after a fairly lengthy discussion on March 7th, it was Assistant Town Manager Chris Rembold who made the suggestion that he could work with 2 members of the board in order to make revisions to the draft short-term rental bylaw in an attempt to come up with a document that could be endorsed by at least 3 members of the board. Selectwoman Davis volunteered to work with Chris, and the chair stated that he could be available for this task. There was no vote of the board. There was no statement regarding creation of a subcommittee, and there was no delegation or grant of any authority to the chair and Selectwoman Davis. The chair simply stated, and I quote, "Let's move ahead. Lee and I will work with Chris on this, and let's move this ahead, or move ahead on this." A similar situation was reviewed in a 2017 open meeting law determination on a complaint that the Brookline Select Board had created a subcommittee that did not comply with the law. The Attorney General's office stated that the analysis would depend on the Select Board's action in whether it intended to create a multiple member body. And you can refer to Open Meeting Law Determination 2017-111. The issue was proposed policies of the town's diversity commission that were to be adopted by the select board. At a public meeting, the chair suggested that the draft be sent back to the commission to incorporate public comment and asked whether a select board member would lead the effort to complete the task. Then a member of the board suggested that another member take the lead and also offered to help that named member. There was no vote of appointment or grant of authority by the board. After the meeting, the 2 members in question worked with the police chief and a member of the commission to finalize the document for consideration at a subsequent select board meeting. After review and based on the facts, the Attorney General's office found that the board had not created a subcommittee. The determination did note that if the board had formally appointed the two members in question to collectively revise the draft policies, it would have created a subcommittee. At this board's meeting on March 7th, there was no vote to appoint the chair and select Selectwoman Davis as a subcommittee. They essentially volunteered to assist in the drafting process for the short-term rental bylaw, which was being led by the assistant town manager. The revised document presented for the board's meeting of May 23rd was for all and subject to the board's discussion and approval. It was not a recommendation. On the basis of the facts, I would recommend that the board vote to find that it did not make the chair and Selectwoman Davis a subcommittee at the meeting of March 7th, and that there was no violation of the open meeting law, and therefore no remedial action is required, and to authorize the town manager and or town council to prepare a written response to the complaints with the reasons for the board's vote.
I have a motion to accept the prepared response and proposed motion.
I make a motion to accept the response and prepared motion and prepared.
I'll second it for discussion.
Yeah, go ahead. We have a motion and a second, Ed.
Yeah, so but I by no means agree with their suggested what we should do to remediate. Whether or not it takes a formal vote to create a subcommittee is something the Attorney General will say, but four of us discussed this and said it was a good idea. 3 people volunteered to do it, and Steve, when Garfield volunteered, you said that would be too many. So I think it's a little disingenuous to say, it was entirely out of the blue and not. I mean, we definitely did not vote, and I think we should say that. But 4 members of the committee who were involved in the discussion agreed that 2 members should meet and report back. And Chris did say at the meeting when he reported back that the committee had that the select board had charged him with meeting with the 2 members. So clearly in his mind, it was a decision, or at least in the statement, it was a decision of the board. There was no formal vote, which I think we should say. I just think we should stipulate the facts and not tell half-truths of something that's going to go to the Attorney General. All 4 of us who were talking supported this idea.
And I don't think there are any half-truths in there, and I really don't like that comment. To say that they essentially volunteered to assist in the drafting. Well, yes, they did, but Garfield was told he could not participate. So to make it sound like it's just 2 people said, I'll do it, it was an action by the board. It would surprise me if 4 members could say, let's do this, let's have somebody report back to us, but we're not going to take a vote, so it's not subject to open meeting law. Seems like a very convenient way to get around open meeting law. I would just like to acknowledge somewhere in this letter that all 4 members participating in the discussion agreed that this was a good idea. That's all I'm asking, which is the truth. It did happen. That's all. If the Attorney General or the complainants agree that it takes a formal vote, otherwise we do hit all 3 of the questions that the Attorney General asks. The thing we didn't do is formally vote. And if that means it's not a violation, that's great. I would prefer we didn't violate it. I just would like to include somewhere in the statement that all 4 members participating in the discussion thought this was a good idea. That's all. Lee?
So I'd like to read the names of the complainants into the record, but before I do that, I'd like to ask Ed Abrams if he knew about this complaint, or did he have any hand in the complaint?
So here's something else I'd like to discuss.
I'd like an answer.
Sorry, you asked me a question. Will you listen to the answer? If we're not in court, you don't get to say how I can answer it. So I was repeatedly attacked personally and about my motives when this was being discussed. Let's not argue about motives. Lee just in the paper this morning said, now you are attacking you're saying, I hope these destructive efforts to stop so we can move forward with implementing the approved bylaw and honoring the wishes of Great Barrington citizens.
Ed, we're talking about the open meeting law. Can you just
right. So the motivation of the people who brought this forward is not relevant. How it was done is not relevant. Who was involved is not relevant. So no, I didn't put this forward. I wasn't part of this, but that's not relevant. And I wish we could stop doing personal attacks to try and make a point. When we were discussing the open meeting law, not once did I attack somebody's motives or the reasons they were doing. And not once did I get an answer to my arguments. Why are we picking on renters and people who live in affordable housing?
Stick to the open meeting law.
Right. So I've answered your question. I don't think it's a relevant question, and I really wish we would stick to the facts, which is all four of us agreed that this was a good idea.
So the reason why I asked you is I would like to read the complainant's name into the record, and my question was if you knew about this complaint before the board did. And
again, I would ask why you're asking that question.
Well, you're not giving me an answer, so that's the answer.
I did answer the question.
He did answer the question. He said
okay, so you didn't have any knowledge of this?
I was not part of this. I saw it when Steve sent it to me.
Okay, so I just,
I'd like asking that. Why are you asking? Why is it relevant what the motivations or who was involved?
I'm not asking if it's relevant. I just asked you a simple question because I was.
Continue this discussion civilly.
Okay, so anyways,
I gave you an answer. You didn't give me an answer. Why is it relevant what the motives are or who the people are who brought this? The question is, did we violate the open meeting law? Why?
I didn't ask that. All I asked you a simple question.
I know, and I answered it. Now I've asked you a simple question.
Please, let's focus on this complaint. The response Mark just read to us. I clearly don't agree with Ed's comments, but I respect what he's saying. I don't agree with him.
Okay.
Lee, the people who were on this.
Yes, I just like for the record, I'd like to read the names. So we have Antonia.
I can't stop you.
Oh, sorry. Antonia Segala of 126 East Street. We have Daniel Seitz of 31 Pleasant Street. And the complainants that added their names is Tracy Thornton of 2 Parley Street, Michael Fernbacher of 2 Parley Street, Ronald Blumenthal of 185 East Street, Naomi Blumenthal of 185 East Street, Larissa Yapel of 15 Castle Hill Avenue, Krista Martins of 354 North Plain Road, Claudia Lasley of 29 Benton Avenue, and Sarah Dixon at 214 Pine Street. So I agree with this response that Mark has presented, and I'd like to accept it. And I hope that that we can recognize the votes of the citizens at the town meeting, and that we can move on. And I'm hoping that this will be the last of the attempted roadblocks that certain members of the Great Barrington citizens have brought before us. I think it's time to recognize that there has been a vote and that we need to move forward. And there's a lot of work to do. And I would like to make a motion that we accept the draft as written.
It's already been moved.
It's been moved and seconded. Any other discussion?
I'm asking that we include, unless somebody tells me I'm wrong, that 4 of us thought that creating this, call it what we will, this task force, these 4 of us thought that the 2 of you meeting with Chris was a good idea.
Make an amendment to the motion. Ed, make amendment to the motion.
I'd like to amend Lee's motion to add that we include that 4 select board members discussed this and thought it was a good idea for the 2 members to talk to staff.
Do I have a second?
So we are choosing not to say that. That's what I call a half-truth, and I know it offends you, and I'm sorry.
Yeah, it does offend me because I don't think it's relevant. I don't think it's a half-truth. I don't think it's relevant. So I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
Steve, I guess I just got a question on if I wasn't involved in that whole thing. Am I still voting here, or how does this work? I'm just sitting in the background, unsure of how to move forward.
Let me discuss this with Mark for a second. And I do see a hand up, but because of possible litigation, we're going to be very careful about taking too much comment, and even during citizens speak. Mark, what's?
That's a good question, Eric, and I don't have an answer for you. David Dineski, our attorney, is available if you would like him to weigh in on that question this evening.
You're asking me on that. I mean, I just don't want to add any muck to the waters, so I'm kind of thinking I should be recused since I wasn't involved in any of those conversations in the first place.
I think that makes perfectly good sense. Yeah. Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second. Roll call vote, Garfield.
Aye.
Ed,
No.
Lee,
Aye.
and I, it passes 3-1. Citizen speak time. Sharon Gregory?
Can you hear me? Sharon
We
Gregory,
can.
32 Hollenbeck. I just wanted to say on the issue of the SDRs, I feel the select board was really open and considerate to all the issues that arose. I hope all select board members accept the ATM vote 2-1 and that signified our town's desire to maintain our very precious Great Barrington community. And I hope we don't encourage more obstruction to the desires of the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. James.
Good evening, board. This is James, 84 North Plain Road again.
Just give your last name, just for the record.
Sure, James Garzone, 84 North Plain Road.
Thank you, James.
I've written to the board several times, and I continue to say this message. Can we please just stop being so contentious? We live in a country already that is so divided. This community isn't as divided as the rest of the country. We all have pretty much the same ideology. We all kind of agree where we want to go, but yet we continue to fight. And I don't understand why. We all have different ideas and different thoughts, and that's great. Having different sides and just debating it professionally, amicably, without such rancor. I just don't get it. There's other subcommittees, other committees throughout Great Barrington that have the same different types of views. They go back and forth. But, the short-term rental, let's get over it. It passed. Let's move on. Why do we have to continue? And I make comments sometimes, like I am now. Before I made a comment about professional people making their opinions, and that was used in a different context by someone. And I just suggest, can we please just stop being so divided? The country is divided enough. Let's not make Great Barrington divided like the rest of them. That's my only comment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, James. Seeing no other hands, select board time. Garfield.
I have nothing else to say.
Eric.
Nothing, thank you.
Ed.
Just a quick answer to James. Some of the rancor comes because I spent months getting called out personally, being called unethical by two members of this board in the press with one of them because they disagreed with the ethics commission, which I followed. So it was a personal attack, and I do apologize that I have lost my patience, I suppose, a few times. But I was personally attacked, which I think is very unprofessional, and it should have been called out, and it wasn't. So I hear what you say, James.
Lee.
I actually agree with James. I think enough is enough. The vote has been taken. The citizens have spoken. It's time to move forward as a community together and try to get over this rancor. And we've had enough volatility for the 8 months. So for the sake of the community, let's put this behind us and move forward and recognize and honor the votes at town meeting.
What James said is perfectly true, and I do think we have to move on as a board and set an example. And I don't know how we're going to do that. And but we need to try. We really need to try for the sake of this town, which all 5 of us love. So I think we need to move on. Media time. Seeing none, there's a hand up, and because I will not sleep all night. James Manning, you're late, but go ahead.
Yeah, I apologize. I just missed it by a second.
Yeah, name and address, please.
James Manning, 304 Main Street. I think the rankers among a very small percentage of people, I mean, we're talking about 10 that filed this complaint, 10 that filed the complaint to basically overturn a vote by the town, a New England town meeting, which is the most democratic of processes. And I don't know the technicalities of the open meeting law, but I think that nobody here was acting in poor faith. Maybe somebody made a mistake, but I don't think anyone was negligent. Nobody was grossly negligent. And I think filing this is just kind of absurd. It's something that I would say is something you want to write down, but not email it to your partner the next day. The 10 people want to overturn a vote of 211 or whatever. And I'm just shocked that given what's happening in the country, that 10 people want to rule the world here. So anyway, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Seeing no one else, no hands up, by unanimous consent, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.